Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you find yourself in. Hello, my name is Reverend Alma Dunbar Savoy. I am the host and creator of Abundant Living Everyday Legacy Series. And it's a series all about sharing stories of regular people like you and me who gone through some extraordinary things, and God has done some extraordinary things in our lives, and we're sharing our stories just to share with others, to help others, to show others what God can do, and how resilience and perseverance is so important in our lives. So today we're starting this series in June, and we're looking at some fathers, some regular fathers, who has an extraordinary stories, and we're calling this unit "Unrecognized Heroes," celebrating some super dads. And so today I'm so excited. I have a super dad with us. I have someone here today, a dad that's going to share his story with us today. And so our theme highlights remarkable dads who's navigated some challenges of things that we go through, dads go through, and each story will be a different dad, showcasing his unique journey and the obstacles that he's faced and the incredible ways he's thrived as a parent, as a dad, and persevered. And it's not only surviving, but thriving. And we have such an exciting young man that will be sharing his story with us on at this session today, this time. And we're going to jump right in. I'm going to ask him to go ahead and introduce himself, tell us a little bit about himself, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So, my guest, thank you so much. I want to thank you so much for sharing your story on Abundant Living Legacy Series. I'm really grateful to you. And go ahead and get started. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. First off, let me say I'm very pleased and very humbled by your invitation and by the opportunity to sit and speak with you. My name is Vernon Smith. Um, I am a father of five, in fact. And
Okay.
like I said, I'm really excited to, I guess, speak about my experiences, um, my processes as a dad, and just I guess, my outlooks.
Okay.
I'm really excited to share that with you all. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So let's just go ahead and start with your journey as now you're a single parent.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So let's start off with that. Your journey as a single parent, raising five children, balancing work and personal growth pursuits, and that. So share what that journey looks like for you.
Absolutely. Let
Mm.
me first start by saying I have three daughters, two sons. My daughters are, in that order, as a matter of fact, my daughters are my oldest children. My two sons are my youngest.
Okay.
My oldest daughter was a result of a relationship that was prior to my marriage.
Okay.
I met my now ex-wife in 1999, and we
Okay.
were together for a little over 15 years, married for a little over 12, but we were actually separated just after 10 years. So that marriage resulted in the birth of the three that we have together. So
Okay.
the three youngest, my youngest daughter, and my two sons, are
Okay.
came through that marriage. I have a bonus daughter as a result of that
Okay.
marriage, and that was
Okay.
her biological daughter, and then my oldest.
Okay.
So throughout our relationship, I was either the sole breadwinner or the primary breadwinner. But I was also, during that time, was a very active dad. That was extremely important to me.
Mm.
So there was a lot of balancing of that. I guess you would say that personal life and being a father.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so once my
Mhm.
ex and I divorced, I was granted sole physical custody of all our common children, as well
Okay.
as we had like a joint legal custody, but the courts awarded me tiebreaker rights. So essentially, the kids were in my home primarily.
Okay. Okay.
So I took that, like I said, I took that role extremely seriously. That was The way I viewed it was the most important role in my life. Um, so I looked at it, for what it was in its barest form, and that was that these were little people completely depended upon me to protect them, to guide them, to educate them, to be patient with them, to share my wisdoms and things like that. So
Okay.
I knew that that was quite a responsibility to undertake, and I had to take it, like I said, very seriously, and I did exactly that. And I
Okay.
knew the only way to do that effectively, for me at least, was through love. That was always at the heart of all my parenting, all my actions, all my decisions. And just to kind of clarify, what I mean by love is I'm not even speaking about the emotion of love.
Okay.
I'm actually speaking about the action of love. And I think that
Mm.
that's to me, love is things like respect,
Mm.
compassion, honesty,
Mm. Mm.
patience, and I parented through all of that.
Okay.
Kindness, humility. That was all of that was always at the center of my parenting, and at the center of my relationships with them. And in fact, I even crafted a mission statement for me that did touch a lot on my parenting, and I actually constructed my parenting around the person that I wanted to be. So
Okay.
it was just a natural fit.
Okay, and I might ask you in just a moment to share, a little bit about that and what that was all about. But let me walk back just a little bit and ask you to walk us through the experience of going through a divorce and then transitioning into single parenthood as a dad, as a man. Typically we kind of generally think of that role, custodial, kids with, as the mother. So walk us through the experience of the divorce and then transitioning into single parenthood.
Yeah. For me, that experience was very traumatic. It actually felt a lot like a death. It felt like I
Mm,
lost a loved one, and I don't
mm,
mean in the sense of I've lost my wife through the marriage. I mean it actually felt like that I lost a person that was very close to me. It was that kind of pain,
mm,
that kind of sense of loss, I guess effectively it is. It's still the death of the marriage. So that
mm,
loss was a very real pain, very real feeling for me. And again, I didn't take it lightly. I mean, that was a union that we both vowed before God, before family, before friends, that was to be for life. And then suddenly that was no longer to be the case. So my process was I had to treat it like that. I had to treat it like this is something to mourn. So I took time to mourn it. And I think that mourning process is what allowed me to start ultimately healing and then
mm,
growing from it. And
mm,
that healing and that growth included a lot of self reflection. It included a lot of personal accountability and
mm,
just kind of understanding my role
mm.
and how things came to an end because it's never a one sided thing.
Right.
I had to reflect on where I went wrong or opportunities where I could have been better. And that was a big
Mm,
part of that transition, that healing, and ultimately that growth for me. Um,
mm,
yeah, so that was really my process through that,
mm,
and through that as a dad, that was personally, but as a dad, I knew that it's going to be a loss for them too. This is
mm,
um, essentially what they knew was that they had a dual parent household, and they had that ripped away. Suddenly, home life isn't the same.
mm,
So it was important for me more than ever to start being a listening ear for them, understand what they were going through, to understand what their fears, their concerns were, because I knew that they had them. It had to be. It was no way
right.
to escape that. So I knew that the best way to kind of help manage them through it was to be a listening ear to better understand them, to better understand how they felt and what their thoughts and things like that were, what their fears were. They had them, and they did. They had real fears. So
Mm,
the best way for me to help manage through that, to help them heal from it, was to
mm,
just to gain understanding, and that was through a lot of listening, knowing that I had to continue to be their physical, emotional, and psychological guide through all of that
yeah.
and protect
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. So, and that is so important. Tell us what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in raising your five children, and how did you overcome, because that's a kind of like a tall order, that's a lot you're saying. So what were some of the biggest challenges with that?
One of the biggest challenges would be I'd say the fact that raising five kids, you come to the realization that one thing that works well for one does not necessarily mean it's going to work for another. So you have to approach them with 100% sense of this is an individual relationship. They've all grown up in the same household. They've all had the same, pretty much the same exposures in life, the same values, but they're still individual people. And I have to relate to them with that sense of individualism. One other challenge was just the sheer, and a lot of people don't speak to this. At least I don't know if they do. Maybe they're afraid to. And I think for a while I was afraid to. Speaking
Mhm.
to the sheer number of children, it is very taxing to try to outpour so much love, to try to pour out so much attention, devotion, dedication to so many people who have needs. And I knew that I felt like I couldn't short any of them. So I had to find reserves to be available for them. And I still do. It's probably a little bit lesser as they've gotten older.
Yeah,
But those that was certainly a challenge, just to find a sense of energy and I guess a sense of perseverance through all of that was
yeah,
challenging.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's such a heavy load, and that's such a good segue into actually the next question I was going to ask you. So, how did you prioritize? What the children needed, and you talked about just the sheer number of five children. How did you prioritize? Their well being along with taking care of yourself during this period. And it's a lot going on. You talked about the pain and all sharing, with the divorce. How did you prioritize what the children needed, their well being? And you talked about even all the things that, they were going through.
absolutely.
Mm.
Um, this is actually an area where I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of errors. And what I mean by that is I actually prioritized them above my own needs.
Okay.
And what I mean by that being a mistake, I think we've all heard that proverbial saying of, right, we'll hit right before flight.
Yeah.
In case of an emergency, it's
Right.
important to apply your own oxygen mask
Yeah.
before you apply it to
Mm-hmm.
someone else. Well, I
Yeah.
did not follow that pattern. I
Okay.
actually tried to apply their masks. I wanted to make sure they were all right, and I did that sometimes at the expense of myself. And
Okay.
I had, unfortunately, it's called. This was one of the biggest tug of wars I've had as a dad because my instinct always told me to be sacrificial to you, to find balance. And I
Right.
one of those things that I struggled prioritizing was finding that balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually struggled for a while until my mom sat down with me, if I may share this.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew exactly how to really kind of set me back on course because
Mm-hmm.
she knew how important fatherhood was for me. And me that you are never allowing yourself to be the best father you can be unless you are also taking care of yourself. Because if you're shorting yourself, you're already
Absolutely.
coming with less energy, less focus,
Right.
less
Right.
attention, less of everything, which means that you're going to be lesser of the best father you can be. So
Right.
that kind of shocked me back into that reality that I have to maintain that balance. And it's not an easy thing. I have to be reminded of that. Because
Right.
again,
Right.
my almost my instinct or my default is to sacrifice for them, but I had to find a better balance. And that was
Right.
one of my biggest challenges as far as prioritizing. Yeah.
Right. So balance is so incredibly important in sharing that. Were there other, and your mom, that's such good advice there. Were there other support systems or other things that helped you during this time to find that balance between, your just self care for yourself as well as for your children,
There
caring for
were.
your children?
I tried to be a student of fatherhood. What I mean by that is I wanted to read different perspectives from maybe field experts or listen to different perspectives of other dads that I thought did excellent jobs,
Okay.
including my own. I followed my own dad as an example as well.
Okay.
But I tried to
Okay.
draw from so many different sources, keep an open mind, to always have a listening ear, to always self reflect, and to
Mm.
always for lack of a better way to put it, to kind of grade my progress or grade my successes only internally, but I would even ask them. I would sometimes say, hey, is there something that you might find that there's something I do better. I can't remember exactly how I worded it, but I actually did sometimes go to them just to kind of get
Mm-hmm.
their feedback on, my parenting. Not that I was going to allow them to drive it because I'm still the one who's supposed to, to be in charge or to be
Surely.
the lead. But I
Right.
still think as a leader, it's important to reflect on the people to reflect with the people you're
Okay.
leading. So that was
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's so good. And so I want to now, because I know something about you, and I know I want to go ahead and turn a corner a little bit on you. It's fascinating that you turned to something that was a form, and I want to find out, and I want you to tell me what you turned to, and was it a form of, and why did you go in that direction? Was it a form of release, or was it a form of, just personal growth or personal passion? Uh, so you know what I'm talking about. Tell
I
us
think I do.
about your hobby there. And I guess maybe it's a hobby, or what you turned to, or did you turn to that, or how did you get into uh,
I believe you're speaking about the acting
acting,
bug.
acting,
I call it the
acting?
acting bug. Yes.
Yeah, okay. I wanted that to come from you. So how did you get into acting?
I,
Uh,
I actually always had a little bit of a performer in me. I was very introverted, shy. I still liked to be a little silly, to kind of portray a different side,
yes.
to perform. So that was a
Okay.
natural progression to say, if you like to do it, why not do it in a more structured environment?
Okay.
In addition
Okay.
to that, it was also a personal challenge because my introversion, I actually have what I believe are social anxieties. So I was
Right.
terrified at the thought of getting up in front of people and performing. But
Wow.
also, I'm one who firmly believes in facing your fears. So, what
Okay.
better way to face that fear than to act, than to put
Right.
yourself in that environment where you are performing in front of others? So
Okay.
that was a perfect fit to cover so many different bases, so many different personal challenges that it just worked great. And I'm still looking to grow in that way too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there specific roles or performances that that you've had that had a profound impact on you, or on your personal, or even on your personal journey as well?
I would say somewhat. Um, there was a role I had recently. I did play a father whose son was in a hospital. He was going through some traumatic moments. So
Okay.
it did allow me to kind of draw upon my own experiences as a dad, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of especially with those moments where I had to emote my fears, emote my pain. So
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely drew. I can kind of say it's more ironically though. A lot of people say they take a lot from a role and apply it to their lives, but for me, I think I did it the other way around. Because
Oh,
being a
okay.
dad is so central to me, I brought a lot of who I was to the role, and
Okay.
I think
Okay.
because I feel so firm in who I am, there wasn't
Mm-hmm.
terribly much that the role could bring to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, were there lessons, or has there been lessons that you have learned from your experiences as an actor, as a divorced father, or single parent? What are some lessons that you've learned through these journeys that you would share with other men that's in your situation?
In my situation, I think it was probably not as much me learning lessons, but having those lessons reaffirmed.
Okay.
And as a dad, what are some of the things, even as a person, even before being a dad, as a person, I wanted to be a person who was principled. I wanted to be a man who was very character based. So
Okay.
things like commitment was very important to me,
Okay.
a sense of professionalism, being a willing, listening student, sacrifice, being humble, forgiving. So as I developed that personally, I applied that towards my parenting, and then I in turn applied it towards my acting. And I thought
Okay.
that sense of professionalism and commitment to the roles that I had was important because I'm
Okay.
still new in the art. I wanted to be a willing student who's willing to sacrifice, his time and his leisures to get
Right.
better as a performer.
Right. Right. Uh, what is there special any advice? What advice would you have for men for that single parents.
I would start with men. I would start with the men as men first before I even addressed them as parents. I would address them as individuals, and that's to have a mastery of self. But I think everything
Okay.
starts with self,
Okay. Okay.
which means that you want to become aware of who you are, be able to
Okay.
articulate who you are. And I would
Okay.
always encourage people to do that through character development.
That's important.
So those things that I've mentioned, like compassion,
Okay.
understanding, patience, empathy, understanding, humble, considerate, all those things that I think are good characteristics to have as an individual are going to be
Okay.
applied as a parent, as a father. That just becomes natural in your role as a dad. And I think
Right.
all the best things that you become and all the best things that you have to offer ought to be applied in that role. That's the
Okay.
way I approach it. And that's how I would advise people. I would advise
Okay.
women.
Okay. So when you look at your journey, has your perspective changed on things like resilience, determination? And you talk, a lot about character. Has your perspective changed on how important those things are? And like you said, a man's life, particularly a father's life, uh, anyone.
Yeah, there were some adjustments I found. Um, I think my early exposure to my idea of what a father was, what a leader was, leaning more towards authoritarian,
Yeah.
meaning that because I had a strong father, he had the booming voice, and he was never physical or anything like that. He never physically disciplined me, but he always had an imposing presence.
Mm-hmm.
What I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do was, as a father, have an element of that, but I wanted to develop more
Mm-hmm.
of, I guess, more of a reflective, more of a nurturing side in addition to that, to be more of
Mm-hmm.
a, I guess, as a complete
Mm-hmm.
person. So I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I did learn is that leading from an I'm struggling with this word here, an authoritarian stance wasn't necessarily always the best way to lead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
things I learned.
When you look at them where they are today, do you think they have, kind of internalized the aspect of you that you were trying to project or portray?
I think so. It's still, I
Okay.
would say, a work in progress, but I think there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that they were able to adopt as their own.
Mm-hmm.
One of the, like I said, character based,
Mm-hmm.
being focused on knowing self long before you look to develop relationships, long
Mm-hmm.
before you look to master, I would say communing with other people. You ought to be mastering self. Have a sense of
Mm-hmm.
self mastery,
Mm-hmm.
self
Mm-hmm.
awareness, self understanding, and then
Right.
everything else kind of springs forward from that.
Right.
I
Right.
think it's empowering to do it that way, and I think I've seen them become empowered. It's like I said, it's still a growth for them. They're
Right.
doing it within the realm of who they are as their own individuals.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's I love it. Yeah.
Are there particular things you do to encourage them to pursue their own, kind of pursue their own journey? Uh,
Yeah, one of the things I always did was I think it's important to express to children not to be a slave to expectations of
okay.
others. Like a lot of cases, we'll hear kids who are steered towards becoming doctors and lawyers, excellent
Yeah.
professions.
Yes.
But if it's
Yeah.
not your passion, if that's not your journey, I think
Right.
it's perfectly not just reasonable, but it's it's a best practice to find what your journey is.
Okay.
I always
Okay.
encourage that, whatever it may be, and doesn't even mean just professionally. It could be in terms of your leisure time. It could be in
Mm-hmm.
terms of anything, not just professionally though, but certainly professionally as well.
Okay. Okay. So as you look towards the future, what are your aspirations for yourself, for your family, for your? What do you consider acting? Do you consider it like a hobby or just how do you see that?
That's a good question. It is. I don't think I'm good enough yet to call myself an actor, even though others may. But I would say
Okay.
I'm a student of acting.
Okay.
I would say
Okay.
right now it is a hobby and it is a subject of study. I am a
Okay.
student, but
Okay.
I'm also a humble one.
Okay.
There's a lot to learn. So before I am comfortable calling myself an actor, I'd like to become stronger in that field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. As we kind of turn maybe another corner in terms of wrapping this up, because it just has been such a really a rich conversation, and I'm so excited with the advice. What we want to do is just be able to share with fathers and who might be experiencing some of the same issues that we're talking about. Is there additional advice that you would like to share with dads?
Again, I always go back to my center, which is um, just being a principled man,
Okay.
deeply loving your family, and that's what I would hope for other men to
Okay.
be principled, but also to be very, very, very self-aware, self-assured, because that
Okay.
builds a strong foundation of confidence. And from that, I think once you have a strong foundation that's unshakable, that
Mm-hmm.
everything else becomes so much easier, and your words are more powerful, your actions are better seen, and I think your effectiveness is just much more present, much more powerful.
Okay. Okay. So, what is the most important thing that people should know about you?
I would say the most important thing would be that I try to be a man who appreciates relationships with people. I think that community is a huge thing for me, and I mean
Mm-hmm.
through fatherhood, through being a son, through me being a brother, a friend, a partner, even just as a general fellow citizen. That's one of the things that really drives me, and I kind of want my legacy to be built around that. 'Cause ultimately, I
Okay.
think that as much as we try to shape our legacy, the people who tell your story are going to be the people who are left once we're gone. So
Right.
one of the things I've tried to do, and this isn't my idea, I actually borrowed this from an author, is to imagine myself. I actually went through this too. I imagine myself at my funeral once I've passed. What are the things you want people to say about you? And I mean, what do you want your kids to say? What do you want your mom to say if she
Mm-hmm.
outlives you? Your sister, your friends, your coworkers. What do you want them to say? The things you want them to say are that's the person you ought to be. So that's the person I try to be. The things that I want them to say about me, the legacy that I want to leave has to be
Okay.
the life I live right now.
Okay,
So,
that's good. So you answered my next to the last question,
oh, sorry.
all right, which was, what would you like for your legacy to be?
Yes, that was.
Okay, and so anything to add to that,
Um,
other than what you've said there?
again, principle centered,
Okay,
charactered man, who has a sense of love, compassion, who love to encourage people too. That's a big thing for me. I do love to encourage people.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So my last question is though, why did you want to tell your story? Why would you share your story? And who do you think it would impact? Or who would you like for it to impact?
One of the reasons I wanted to share my story is because I knew it would be difficult. This is not an easy thing for me to speak
Okay.
to you in this
Okay.
way. Again, because of my social anxiety, so that I struggle. I don't know if it's coming through, but I struggle with this. But I am always happy to share
Okay.
with others because that's that community. That's that sense of communing with others. Also, I'm a huge fan of yours. So I was always wanted to be on your platform. And I've seen your platform before, and I was like, this is something I would love to do. So that was a big part too. But ultimately, I think I have a good blueprint I've followed, not my
Mm-hmm.
own, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
good blueprint I've followed, and I would encourage other men to follow
Mm-hmm.
that blueprint. I think men are ultimately our leaders of home, of community. And I'd like to see us grow stronger in that leadership. And that
Mm-hmm.
strength is not an authoritarian strength, but it's
Right.
strength of those characteristics that I spoke about, and the strength of being a principled man.
And that is so important, and it does come through your strength and your strength of purpose and your strength of character, and that soft the soft spokenness with such strength does come through. And that's why I wanted you to share your story, because I do believe that it will have an impact on so many men that will hear this and take the time to listen to that. It doesn't, and which really epitomizes what abundant living every day is all about. It's not about, it has to be the most flashiest thing. It's just the basic character of being who you are, standing for truth and honesty and love, that you brought out so poignantly there in your story there. And just to be able to share that, we survive, so we go through so many things, and life uh, dishes out so much, so many different things, so much pain here and in our lives and in our children's lives, but it doesn't, we can overcome those kinds of things. And so again, I appreciate your sharing your story, and I'm so excited this month in June as we share with dads that it's all about, you might be unrecognized on the big platform, but where it really matters in your family and with those, your loved ones, that's where it really counts, and that's where it really matters. And I'm just so pleased, and I thank God to be able to have this platform to just share. Like I said, Abundant Living Everyday Legacy Series is about sharing the stories of regular people, but God has done some extraordinary things in their lives. So, Vernon Smith, any last words?
Yes, again,
Okay, okay.
I want to thank you tremendously for the opportunity. I am a big fan of yours, and I have a great deal of
Thank you.
respect for you. And
Thank you.
it was really an honor to be here and share this moment in time with you. Thank you.
You're welcome, and my thanks to you. And well, everyone, there you have the amazing, powerful story of Vernon Smith, unrecognized super dad, sharing his story for our Abundant Living Everyday June Father's Super Dad series. So thank you, Vernon, again. Thank you so much. I really appreciate, love you, and thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for allowing me to share this story with you on Abundant Living Everyday Legacy Series, where we're sharing stories of ordinary men and women whom God has done some extraordinary things in our lives, and we're telling our story on Abundant Living every day, each and every day. So, everyone, as the curtain falls on our story for this time, until the next fascinating legacy story, remember there's a story in each and every one of us just waiting to be shared. And I hope you'll share it on Abundant Living Everyday Legacy Series. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Vernon. Thank you so much, everyone. Please, you can reach out to me on Abundant Living Everyday, Abundant Living Everyday at gmail.com. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.